I remember me and this girl, we were hanging out for a really long time until she finally told me, Baba, let's just go back to my place. And I remember once we got to her place, me and her, we were in the middle of doing the Devil's Tango. And she kept basically telling me to slap her and hit her midway through. And no joke, one thing I started to realize was that this girl felt no pain. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane but crazy story. Now, this story all takes place back in my grade 10 year, and I'm not gonna lie, in grade 10, I wasn't a good guy whatsoever. To be honest, the only things I really cared about was doing the Devil's Tango and basically doing things that I wasn't really proud of. To be honest, that's what this entire channel is if you really think about it. But going on, I remember my grade 10 year, I was walking to school one day until one of my buddies ended up coming up behind me. And as we were walking to school together, I remember we ended up seeing a girl on the sidewalk. Now, she was across the street from us, but she looked really attractive to the point where my buddy went and said, yo, Bubba, that girl over there is really hot, bro. Like, you should go up to her. Bro, does she even go to the same school as us? Is what I asked him, and he had no idea. To the point where I decided that maybe I should go up and just actually say hi. So that's what I did. I ended up crossing the street, but in the middle of crossing the street, I realized that she ended up falling down. She fell down, and I remember I decided to run up to her, and I ran up to her saying, yo, are you okay? Like, I saw you fall down. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. It's just a little scratch. I remember I ended up looking at her wound that she got, and no joke, it was not just a scratch. Like, if I could explain this thing, I could probably get banned on the internet. It was super disgusting, and honestly, one thing I will say is that she was definitely crazy for just calling it a scratch. To the point where I looked at her and said, yo, like, you might need stitches. Like, that's actually a lot of blood coming out. Oh, like, it's gonna be fine. Don't worry. And I remember what this girl did was actually the most bizarre thing ever. Where I remember I ended up walking with her back to school, and every time I tried to help her, she didn't need it. It got to the point where she was walking totally normally, as if she didn't have blood dripping down her leg. And that's when I told her, yo, do you want to like go see the school nurse? Like, it's right there. What? Oh, no, it's totally fine. I know what I have to do. I remember me and her, we ended up going into a different classroom. And this is going to sound super gross, but when we went into a different classroom, she ended up going up to the teacher's desk, getting a stapler. And by the way, the classroom was totally empty. And she ended up stapling her wound back together. When I saw this, I couldn't stare at it because I got so disgusted to the point where I looked away and said, are you crazy? Like, doesn't that hurt? Oh, no, it's totally fine. I get used to it. At that point, I thought this girl was like crazy. Okay. And it got to the point where I just looked at her and I'm like, okay, well, I think you're gonna be okay then, I guess. I'm just gonna go. Oh, what? You're leaving me? Well, yeah, I gotta go to class. Here, wait, let me give you my number. I remember she ends up getting my phone from me and she ends up giving me her number. And then right after she says, text me later. And she walks away as if nothing happened with staples on her leg. Honestly, I was mind blown. And I remember I ended up walking up to my buddy that I ended up walking to school with earlier. And I told him, yo, bro, that girl was crazy. Well, what happened? I ended up telling him what happened, but he didn't believe me. And I remember later on that day, let's just say things got even worse. Because I remember later on that day, I was just basically like hanging out, going to lunch. And as I was heading to the cafeteria to meet up with the boys I usually sit with at lunchtime, I ended up seeing a giant fight happen in the hallway. And when I ran down to see who was fighting, I realized it was the girl that I met earlier and another chick that was from the cheerleading team. Now, when I saw this go down, a lot of people were cheering and a lot of people were freaking out about it. But one thing I started to realize was that the girl that was the crazy chick I met earlier was really hardcore beating her up. Like, no joke. She was taking punches as if they didn't even hurt. And it got to the point where the cheerleader ended up getting put down to the ground. And no joke, teachers had to come in and take her away in an ambulance. I remember I saw the whole thing go down and I felt really worried about the cheerleading girl. But not only that, I was actually kind of amazed about how this girl just took these punches like crazy. At that point, I started connecting two to two together. And in my mind, I thought, okay, maybe this girl was like an MMA fighter or some kind of, fighting sport, to the point where she had a really high pain tolerance. But later on in the story, you guys will realize I was totally wrong. The way she got her pain tolerance was from something else. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I ended up walking up to this girl, the one that won the fight, the crazy one, I guess we can call her. And when I walked up to her, I remember I said, hey, so like, is everything all right? What? Oh, yeah, it's totally fine. She was just being a brat. Okay, well, like, I just wanted to check in and make sure you're okay. Oh, I'm totally fine. What you up to after school, by the way? Huh? Oh, I was just gonna like, just hang out and like probably go to the mall. Why? What's going on? Oh, well, like, I don't know. Do you want to like hang out together? Like, I really have no plans, and to be honest, I just want to get out of here. At that moment, me and her, we actually ended up ditching school early, which no one should ever do, by the way. It is not a good idea. And me and her, we ended up going to the mall at lunch, and I'm not gonna lie. There was a lot to know about this girl. Apparently, she did kung fu for like 10 years and like she was apparently like a master, a black belt, whatever you call it. And honestly, she was like a total ninja. At least that's what she told me. To the point where I looked at her and I'm like, yeah, like you were taking those punches like a champ. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I have like a really high pain tolerance. I don't really know, but I kind of like it. You like the pain? Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just something about it that makes me like feel so good. When she said that, I found it kind of sus. I'm not gonna lie. But that wasn't even the weirdest part. Because I remember as me and her were walking together, we ended up taking the escalator going down towards like the downstairs of the mall. And no joke, it was the most craziest thing because she stepped onto the escalator, but she fell down. She fell down, rolling down the escalator, bumping her head like on every corner step. And no joke, she stood up right after, acting like nothing happened. She had a bunch of bruises on her, but she said, oh, like, don't worry, that's totally normal. As if nothing happened. She even started giggling right after it happened as well. Honestly, I don't really know what was going on with this girl, but one thing was for sure, she was a major weirdo. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember later on that day, me and her, we ended up, deciding to go back to school, and that's what we did. We started walking back towards the school, but then she told me, oh, Bubba, so what are you doing later today? Once again, really nothing. I'm probably just gonna go home and play Call of Duty. Oh, well, do you want to like maybe come over? At that moment, I looked at her and I'm like, yeah, sure, I can come over. Why? What's going on? Oh, nothing. I just, I want to try something. Okay, yeah, I'll come over. I remember she ended up texting me her address, and literally like hours later, when I was already at home, chilling, just playing Call of Duty, she ended up texting me. She texted me saying, hey, like, you want to come over now? I want to try something. Can you like come over like right now? She was basically begging me to come over, and I was like, okay, like I'll go over. So I ended up getting on my BMX bike because at the time I did not have my car yet. And I remember I rode my bike all the way to her place. When I saw her, I ended up seeing her sitting on her porch. And when she saw me, she stood up and said, Bubba, you made it over here. I ended up walking up to her, and me and her, we decided to go straight to the bedroom. Now, when I walked inside her bedroom, one thing I saw was one of those like punching dummies, those like mannequins, I guess. I don't really know what you call it, but she had one standing in the corner of her room and it looked really beat up. I'm not gonna lie. I thought this was like part of her like kung fu, but then afterwards, me and her, we started sitting on the bed, we started talking and stuff, but then she started making out with me. I think you guys know where this is going, but me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango. But one thing this girl wanted me to do, and she kept begging for it over and over again, was to me to punch her, slap her, and basically do things that would cause a lot of pain towards another person. I'm not gonna lie, I'm rough, but I'm not that rough. I remember midway through, she ends up basically standing up and she's like, Bubba, are you not like rough or anything? Well, like I'm rough, but like not like, to the extent you like, I guess. Okay, well, I know how to fix that. At that moment, I was wondering what she meant by that, but she ended up walking up to this drawer she had, sitting in like the corner of her room, and she opened it and it was full of like different things that would most likely hurt people. And I saw she ended up pulling out this whip that she had, and she told me to use it on her. And at that moment, I stood up and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is a bit too much. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, come on, Bubba. It's totally fine. I can handle it, obviously. You've seen the stuff I can do. Yeah, no, I know that, but like, I don't want to be the one causing it. I remember she ends up grabbing the whip from my hand and she ends up hitting herself with it to the point where I was super weirded out. And I'm like, yo, actually, to be honest, it's getting late and I gotta get going home, to be honest. What? Are you serious right now? Is what she told me. And she ended up calling me a wuss and I just left. I won't lie to you. I didn't want to do the devil's tango with her anymore because let's be real here, the way she was taking it was way too far. But I mean, if you guys like it rough, then follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.